Once more into the fray, good friends, for we are going to tackle the global feats that are left in this edition of Conquest. We've had some cheesy goodness, and it would be remiss of me not to provide you with some extra cheddar. Let's break down the global feats for Conquest. So here we are, finally. The final step. We've got 7 days left, according to my counter, to get our global feats done. That is the event feats here. Now, you don't have to do all of them. You could drop 32, I believe, 32 to 35. It's something like that. Key cards across the entire gamut of Conquest. What are those feats? Defeat 250 enemies on the Golden Challenge path. This one you should get organically as you're transitioning through all of the sectors. Just make sure you are always on the hard node path. You'll notice it's that golden color. You should always be going along that path anyway, for the most part, to make sure that you are getting the best data discs you possibly can. So I'm not giving you a guide. You just need to make sure that you're going along this golden path as often as possible, okay? It's not particularly difficult. You should organically get that one, so I'm not going to do you a guide for that one. It's only 250 enemies. You know, there's at least 5 enemies per node, which means, you know, after about 50 nodes or so, which is 2.5 sectors, you should be done. You should be done more or less. Learn control. Complete a battle using the deployable cooling systems consumable. Now you can get this consumable through doing the Imperial dominance feat, which I will go over very shortly. You do not have to win the battle. You just have to use the consumable and enter a battle. It is exactly the same as the no such thing as luck feat, which requires you to use the over-prepared data disc, which you get from winning 40 battles with Rebels active. You can't do those two feats in one battle, unfortunately, because they are exclusive consumables. All right, I'm not going to show you how to do that, because that's a case of go in, use the consumable, and jump into a battle. If you need a video guide to tell you how to get that done, I think you need some help, just in general. Okay, so let us start off with the big cheesy thing that is Imperial dominance. Now, I already covered this in an earlier video for Sector 4. Sector 4 is the ideal location to get this one done. Why is Sector 4 so ideal? Well, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, the reason it is so ideal is because it has this particular node here, which has Vandal Chewbacca and then some units. Vandal Chewbacca is constantly going to be providing a source of revives. Now, if you take a look at my video here, I go over how it's done. So this is the team that I was using for this particular feat. I was going in with a Veers lead with Piet, Scout Trooper. I'm using Death Trooper here, Dark Trooper Moff Gideon consumable, and Drogon. So you don't need the Dark Trooper Moff Gideon. I just found him useful to be able to absorb some counterattacks. Drogon was simply there because this sector required me to get kills with Drogon. And you can time out all of these events, all of these feats, sorry, and get them all done together, which I found to be rather useful. Now, the crux of this is around essentially ensuring that Vandal Chewbacca, the unit on the far left, this guy over here, is constantly at 100% protection and always has a buff. If he has those two bits of criteria always active, then he will constantly reapply prepared. Whilst he has prepared, an ally that has, any of his scoundrel allies will automatically get revived whenever they die. Essentially, it gives us a means of constantly destroying the enemy. Now, in this setup, I'm using Death Trooper, to use his Terminate ability to get rid of all of the other allies, leaving just one unit, in my instance, it's IG-11, alive whilst the others are dead. So you want to whistle down the rest of the units. You don't have to leave IG-11. You could use Young Han or something like that. You want to whittle down the enemy and then kill one of them with that Terminate, and then loop back round. After the first kill, every time you use Terminate, the enemy will get Death Mark, which means they cannot be revived, and they'll also take a bunch of max health damage. After that point, when it's just down to one unit left, you can actually just go full auto. Now, a couple of things about this. You can't be using Amplify Agony. The reason for that is you are doing some AoE debuffs in this setup, which means that Vandal Chewbacca will take damage. You do not want him to take damage from Amplify Agony data discs. So instead, you want anything that is going to ramp your offense. Stuff like Ruthless Offense, okay? Anything that's going to increase that damage over time is going to be a good thing, all right? There are other ones I'm trying to remember. Is it Vengeful Retribution or something like that? I can't remember. But anything that's going to increase your damage, organically, you're going to increase damage thanks to Emperor's Trap from Piet, and then anything that is going to decrease the enemy's turn meter, so unstable decelerators and ruthless swiftness data discs. Combining all of those together, you will slowly over time just ramp up a boatload of damage, and yeah, over time you will succeed in getting a bunch of kills with either Veers or Piet. Okay, so when you get later on in the matchup, you want to actually put that Emperor's Trap on Veers so he is assisting more frequently. You can see we've been using that Terminate ability to kill off everybody apart from one remaining unit, and then it's just a case of have fun. You could probably even go auto basic at this point, and you'll be generating enough TM through the leadership of Veers and the Ruthless Swiftness data discs that we've got running right now. I think it's a great setup. You'll get 100 kills in this in one battle, no problem. If you want to have a more in-depth guide of this, go check out my Sector 4 video. I go over it completely. All right, moving on. For the remainder of these feats, I use the exact same data disc setup. I'm using Volatile Accelerator with Invasive Endings, which actually isn't helping us in the slightest. Amplify Agony, not this Deadly Momentum. I was simply using additional Amplify Agonies. I've just thrown this on this at the end. I never used in my videos, I do not use this Deadly Momentum because that is essentially a pay-to-win data disc that you can only get through almost only get through purchasing the Conquest Pass Plus, okay? So Volatile Accelerators, Amplify Agonies if you've got stuff like Ruthless Swiftness, maybe even Ruthless Offense, and Invasive Endings, which is a phenomenal data disc, but not that necessary for what we're doing. That's the data disc setup that I'm using for all of the remaining global feats, more or less, okay? First up on the chopping board, we need to get 20 victories with Lightside Mandalorians. There are not a lot of Lightside Mandalorians. I'm going in with a BAM lead. The reason I'm using BAM lead is because he generates a boatload of TM for his scoundrel allies whenever enemies are hurt, essentially. Enemies with debuffs are hurt. So with Volatile Accelerator, you get a lot of victories, okay? A lot of very quick victories. I use the bonus node here at the start of Sector 1 to get this one done, so you can farm your Datacron materials at the same time. Now, it is important that you do not lose a unit in this, so try to get 2 or 3 wins a day with this, and then back out and come back in, unless you are very comfortable that your BAM team will be able to withstand the onslaught from the Bad Batch. Again, same data disc setup, and now we are going in with my trusty Ewoks. Now, I have some decent Ewoks thanks to farming out Galactic Legend, Leia Organa, but the rest of them are around Gear 10, Gear 11. You need to go in with Chirpa, Nisa, Wicket, Paplu, and Logray. Now, it is a pretty good team in general, but not a phenomenal team. Nisa does a lot to uplift it, but still, with this team, it's actually really good with that Volatile Accelerator data disc setup because they do a lot of attacks, which means you're going to be triggering a lot of Amplify Agonies, especially Nisa. Now, Paplu is the tank, and he gains a whopping like 25% or 50% speed when he's not taunting. So if you just throw on some decent speed mods onto him, you should be able to outpace. And after that, the damage of the rest of your Ewoks shouldn't matter too much if you've got some form of Ruthless Swiftness, because you should be developing a lot of turn meter in general, and then all of the attacks are just going to be triggering the Volatile Accelerator and the Amplify Agony. That's going to do all the heavy lifting. Moving on then, another one of our feats that we need to get done is 40 wins with First Order. Now personally, if you've got Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, like I finally do, it only took me like 14 years to get there, then you want to use your best team with Hux. Okay, so I'm saying take in Hux, take in Crew, take in OG Kylo, take in Fox, take in anything that you feel like is actually going to help you get the victory. The difference with the First Order one is that you do not actually need to win with all allies alive. So it's different to the Ewok feat and to the Lightside Mandalorian feat. They can't lose a unit. First Order ones can, which makes life so much easier for you. So I'm splitting my First Order teams into 2, this Hux lead team, and then I'm going in with a separate Slacker team with leftovers. Again, if you do not have a bunch of gear on your First Order, I'd recommend you just go in the early bonus Datacron nodes so that you can still farm your Datacron materials. This Bad Batch one is actually incredibly easy to get a victory in. If you have that unstable retribution or whatever it is, data disc, that actually makes you be able to farm this all the way down into 1% stamina, because if you lose a unit, the enemy will basically blow themselves up. Isn't that wonderful? So again, the second team that I run for First Order is just Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, who's going to be doing all the heavy lifting, and then whatever first order you've got left over. Remember, it doesn't matter if the units survive. So if you're doing this on bonus nodes at the end of Conquest like I always do, then you don't have to worry about stars, you're just farming Datacron materials whilst getting some easy victories. So the last global feat that we need to get done is Rebels, and Rebels is one of the biggest faction in the game. So this is actually super easy to get done, because not only is it one of the biggest factions in the game, it's also one of the best factions in the game, especially when it comes to Conquest. So first and foremost, your boy Scribble's tried and trusted absolute favourite team, CLS Rebels. I'm using the Sector 3, I want to say bonus node, might be Sector 4, against the Night Sisters because it provides me with the Datacron materials that I want the most, which is the Tier 1 and the Tier 2, because I already have lots of the rest of the materials. So I like to farm this node when I've got nothing else. You can basically just put it on auto. I was doing this rather brainlessly just because I thought, why not? And as you can see, very easy. But that's just one team. We've got a bunch of teams that we can use. Another team that we can use is Mon Mothma. Now I'm using Kyle Katarn, Biggs and Cara Dune, and Captain Rex. I don't recommend using Captain Rex. He's very good, but you can also use your Captain Rex in a Phoenix team, which we're going to go over in a second. As you can see, once again, Volatile Accelerator and Amplify Agony does all the heavy lifting for us. This one's actually got the Thermal Detonator data disc on as well, which is just even more debuffs to add to the fray. Very easy victories there. I would drop C-Rex and maybe put in Wedge or somebody else, or even, you know, like Hoth Rebel Scout. Easy victories. For a third team, you can even use Adrad, Admiral Radus, which is a team that many people will have had geared up because of the fact that you needed R9 Adrad for the Profundity. And then you've also got Cassian in there, and then Jin, and then I've thrown in K2SO with Bistan. Quite a common team at this point, specifically for those of you that are pushing into mid-game or prioritize your fleet. Another really interesting team. Very good, again, in Conquest. It does have a mass revive, and Jin, of course, cannot die while Adrad is alive, which just makes another area of very useful strategy to this. And finally for Rebels, we've also got the wonderful Phoenix faction. Phoenix with Captain Rex is all of a sudden a really good threat. I absolutely love this team now, and it's got nothing to do with the fact that I have mostly got R9 Phoenix. Twitch does interesting things to my roster. And yeah, Phoenix do a great job of it. C-Rex in particular just makes it a very strong team. They even get a mass revive over there, and I'm like, oh gee, that was rather rude. Maybe I should actually, you know, focus fire some useful units. Sabine with her AoE bomb over there does really good work as well, putting out additional thermal detonators to destroy the Night Sisters once and for all. Now, of course, you can do one final team. Well, you could probably do more than one final team, but you could, of course, use GL Leia to get the job done as well. And that is basically going to about do it, guys. Just do what I do. Rush through most of the sectors and then clean up the global feats at the end. Of course, if you are more sensible, you can just chip away at those feats as you go. I like to come back at the end because I just like to get through all the sectors, get all my data discs, and then make the farming super easy just by hitting those Datacron nodes at the end of Conquest. I'd love to know how you'd like to tackle your global feats. Let me know in the comments section below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Because I'm so close to 10k subs, help a brother out. It would be my absolute dream to get 10k subs before we hit February. Let's make it happen, Captain. Until the next video, peace out. May the Force be with you.